Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about toilet paper dollhouse food. Now I'm going to use 1 part of water and approximately 3 parts of glue. I'm using the clear glue because it goes on a little bit better when it comes to having that clear consistency rather than a solid consistency. You can use regular white glue if you want, but just remember your colors. If you add color to your food or your clay or your mixture, it will have a base to it. Now once you put the two together, you want to stir it until you don't see any more swirls. If you're seeing swirls, then you need to keep stirring because it's not completely mixed. Now, there's going to be 2 parts to this. There's going to be the part that's going to have the paper type of consistency, which is the very first part, and then there's going to be the clay consistency. And I'm going to do them both in this video, and then I will do the food video on how I made them separately from this. This is just going to teach you how to actually make the consistency that you need for your food. And remember, this is dollhouse food, and it's not edible, so keep it away from your pets and stuff like that. Now I'm using very cheap toilet paper that I got from Sam's Club, and I'm just ripping it up. It is 2-ply, but 1-ply is actually better, because what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get it all absorbed. So the thinner it is, the easier to absorb it. It'll be better. Now you can just squish it down in there, and sorry I moved out of the camera for this. I didn't realize I did that. But you want to keep squishing it in there and getting all of those pieces mixed up. Now you have a food processor that is not for your food and you just use it for crafts. You can do this in larger batches by putting it in there and then just processing it that way. But I'm only using a little bit at a time, so I'm not going to pull out my craft processor. And, you know, it's easier to just do this quickly on camera this way anyway. But like I said, you can blend it up if you have something that you use strictly for crafts. Now what you want to do is you want to keep stirring it. When you get it mixed up, then you want to add more and more toilet paper until you get it to a very thick consistency, almost as if you are at like a really wet, pulpy toilet paper consistency. So like right now it's very, like, I don't know, almost like a gloss. Now I've added more to it and it's getting thicker as I go. And you can add your paint in as well if you know that you're going to do it a certain color. You want to add that in either to the water and the glue mixture before you start, or you can add it in as you go along like this. I usually add it in when I get it pretty much mixed up because I do it in bits and pieces. So that way I can use my mixture for different colors. Okay, so continue to mix and stir, and then you want to make sure that you're pressing down so that you don't have any clumps. And right now it's probably about the consistency of a mashed potato, but you want to make it thicker than that. So continue to add whatever you're going to add to it and make it thicker as you go along. Okay, so here, if you can see that it doesn't really want to fall off as easily, then you know you've got it a good consistency. Now at this point, this is the one that you will use for your like green beans and your corn and your lettuce and some of your different types of meat. Because you don't really want it to be smooth when you're doing those things. You need to be a certain consistency to get that, and clay cannot give you that consistency. Now, this recipe that I'm showing you here is going to be that mixture that you just made, but the only difference is you're going to add this sheetrock compound to it. This mixture will actually help thicken that up, and then it'll make it more of a clay consistency, but you will also add flour to it once you get it thoroughly mixed. For this one I did about half and half, And I just kept adding a little bit more of the sheetrock compound. And this is the stuff that you use for your drywall and stuff like that. And then you just want to mix it in until you get kind of like a really smooth mashed potato type consistency. Once you get it like that, then you're going to transfer that to a bigger bowl, and then you're going to add flour to it. Regular household flour. So make sure you keep, these are not for like actually eating or anything like that, and it could be dangerous for pets and stuff like that to do this, like to get anywhere near it. So do not, keep this stuff in an area where you have pets or wild birds or, small children or anything like that. So be careful with that, and don't use dishes that you're going to use for your house. Make sure you're only using disposable things. And everything in here I actually use for crafting. So I don't care if it gets messed up. Now you see that how it's swirling around in there, and it's kind of like this little ball. When I get done making this, it's going to be about the size of a Sculpey block, because now I've got to add the flour to it. But if you want color, make sure you add the color in the first process, the very first step, because if you add it in later, it'll get too light and you won't be able to do the coloring that you want. And one thing that I did find with this is that when you are adding the color to this, you need to go darker, because the flour ends up making it dry a lot lighter. It's kind of like when I was saying about the white glue earlier. You're giving it a base, and that base is white, so it's going to be brighter, which makes your colors lighter. So the other thing is too, this consistency works great for breads and like making your own pizzas and stuff like that, because it literally has that doughy kind of consistency when it dries. It looks like dough. As you can see in this picture of my pizza, the pizza itself is made with this particular clay. The toppings, the cheese and the green peppers and the tomato and the red peppers and like the meats and stuff, they're made with the original type of recipe that I showed you in the beginning. So those are the type of differences that you'll see. When you use the paper recipe with just the toilet paper and glue with water, you can make different types of food that is more realistic, like the green peppers and the tomatoes and stuff like that, because you have a little bit more flexibility, I guess you could say, with mixing it up. Now, as you can see with this, it just stuck to my fingers. Now I'm going to add some flour to it, and I'm going to keep kneading that flour in there repetitively. Just keep adding it and go on and on until you get it to where it's not sticky anymore. All right, so continue this process until you are happy with the consistency that you have. And it should be more of like a dough consistency, but not sticking to your fingers. So just work it in. Another thing that I did try with the flour water glue consistency is I added a drop of olive oil. I don't know if that does anything long term to this, if it helps with cracking or anything like that. I don't know. I do know that somebody had commented on one of my posts and said that I was making paper clay. Never heard of that before. I know I'm like older and I heard of paper mache, but never paper clay. So that was new to me, and that's when I researched, and some of the people were using oil and stuff in it. So for me, I did try it a little bit later, and it did help with the stickiness without having to use so much flour. Whether or not that does anything different, I don't think it does, to the finished product because everything cut exactly the same and it felt exactly the same when I was molding it. And I even refrigerated the clay for a couple of days to see if it was going to make a difference in the refrigerator, and it didn't. So, you know, now as you can see, I'm able to roll this up, bend it, I'm able to smush it together, and it's not sticking. It pulls apart really good. And to be completely honest, so far, I like the flexibility of this better than I do the Sculpey because it's easier to work with. You don't have to knead it as much like when you're doing the Sculpey, because the Sculpey you have to mess with over and over again. But like here, I'm just kind of doing a couple little testers with the paint mixed in with it. And I mixed the paint after the fact. That's why I'm telling you guys to mix it before, because it's coming off on my fingers. But, yeah, I mean, it worked out great for the potatoes. And I don't know, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool looking, and it was an easy recipe to do. And everything that I used in this recipe, I already had in my house, so it didn't cost me anything to make this, which was great, you know, so I was happy about that. Now, I'm not going to show you how to make all this food in this tutorial, because I'm going to do a tutorial for the different foods separately. And hopefully I can break them down to where they're like mini clips and put them all together for you in one video, because right now I've got a lot of different videos of how I did the food, because I just kept recording while I was doing it. But, you know, take that mixture that you did, and this is the one with just the toilet paper and the water with the glue. As you can see, I'm putting it back in here, and this is when I'm going to try and add the paint. So make sure that you're adding this paint in this step if you're going to do it before you start adding the spackle, because it literally was coming off on my fingers the other way. So that's why I'm showing you it now. Just stir it up. And I really need to find a better view for the camera too, because my hands are bugging me being in the way a lot. But I'm at my desk and I'm not in my workshop, so it is what it is. Now, I'm thinking at this point that I'm going to get the right color right here, you know, by mixing the different colors, and I'm going to get the color that I want, and it's going to work out great. Well, newsflash, this dries really, really light. So if you think you have it too dark, go darker, because it's going to dry lighter than you anticipate. And if you're going to add black like I just did, make sure you put the black on something else before you put it in your mixture, because the black will darken it way more than you think. It literally will go too dark. So you only need a tiny bit of black if you're trying to darken it. And if you're buying the colors separately and you're trying to do it just as is for the color, say like you want red, but you want a really deep burgundy that's darker than the actual like crayon color red, then, you know, go darker than that if you're buying it in that color in the store, because it will never be that color when it comes out. It's always going to be lighter. So that's one thing I did learn with this process. So here I'm doing it and I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be a great color, and it might dry a little bit lighter, but it's going to be good. Well, it really dried a lot lighter than I anticipated. So definitely think go darker. And you can use any acrylic based paint for this. I mean, it doesn't matter what brand. You may even be able to use food dye. If you try to use food dye, let me know if it works out. When I make my clay for my grandson and my slime for my grandson, I use food coloring for that. I've not tried that yet. Maybe I'll do that in a different video. So, we'll see. I'm not sure. If you have done it already, let me know. Because, like, this is literally all new to me. But as you can see, the coloring is in there. It's getting the consistency that I want. I'm adding the flour, blending it in really, really well. But, you know, that, like, paint is like staying on the actual clay now. It's not coming off all over my fingers like it did originally. And as you can see, it, you know, molds pretty good. And it does a good job. Now, this is the part where I'm going to show you the clay on the right, the clay on the left, and then the white on the left. And one has the oil in it, one does not. It does not seem to make a difference to me. One does seem to be a little bit less sticky, and that's the one with the oil in it. So it was just like a micro drop of the oil too. It wasn't a lot. It was very, very little when I added it. So the oil is optional. And like I said, I used olive oil. I imagine any oil will do it, but we cook with olive oil. So that's what I had in my kitchen. You might even be able to use baby oil or vegetable oil or, you know, any kind of oil, because you literally just have used a tiny little drop of it in this small little block of clay. And I'm, like I said, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with how this turned out. And, you know, between the three and the clay consistency is very nice to work with. And then the paper consistency from the very first recipe I did was great for a lot of different things that I tried. You know, I was able to make a lot of food with that. So definitely subscribe, leave a question, suggestion, or comment below on things that you've done, things that works for you, things that you think would work for me, and I'll try it if I can. And we'll go from there. But in the meantime, I'll post a video of how I made the pizza and how I made the different meats and the different types of things. So at that point, you'll be able to see the different foods and stuff. But as you can see, this stretch is pretty good. And again, this clay was made with the toilet paper glue water mixture, a little bit of spackle, usually like 1 part to 1 part, and then flour to get it to stop being sticky. And then you'll be able to roll it around in your hand like you do dough, and you'll be able to work with it. I recommend putting it in your refrigerator to keep it longer, because I'm not sure how it will hold up if you leave it out. It may dry, it may not, because I mean, this with the compound in it dries pretty quickly. And I would only make small batches. Don't make really large batches, because you'll never be able to use it all before it's, you know, unusable. So just make tiny little bits and go from there. But the one on the left and the one on the right, you can see the difference in the consistency. The one on the left has the oil in it, the one on the right does not. So I also recommend putting that oil in there if you want to. If you don't, you don't have to. But you can see the difference in this little area here. But I would say overall, I'm happy with this clay, and I'll probably continue to make my clay like this from now on. And you'll have to get the compound, the joint compound, from like Walmart or online, because there are certain ones that don't work from what I've watched on other videos. And I believe DAP is one of the ones that they say it turns to like a jelly kind of consistency. There's something in it that doesn't work with the glue. So definitely don't use the DAP brand. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you're able to work with this and if you're able to make anything out of it. And if you do, share it on my Facebook page too, so that I can see what you've done, because it's pretty cool. If you do want a white base, remember, add your paint in with it, and you'll be good to go. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that bell below, because you'll be able to see the food that I make from all of this. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.